Hi everyone. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. And if you celebrate and you're watching this today on the 6th of January or tomorrow the 7th of January, happy Orthodox Christmas. Today I'm going to be doing a swatching video, my first video of this new year. These are the 7 Deadly Sins inks from Diamine. They are an exclusive from Cult Pens in the UK. I've had them for a while. I enjoy writing with them. The only one I haven't written with yet, is it Gluttony or Greed? Because those are the ones I've used the least, but I've used Gluttony is the one I have used in pens a couple of times. Greed I have only written with in dip pens, just because gold isn't particularly my color. My favorites are, surprise, surprise, the purple ink Pride, which is also a shimmer ink, and I also really enjoy Lust, which is a kind of medium-ish blue with a reddish sheen. I know that's kind of overused these days in the ink world, but I really like how it goes out. It looks kind of like not like all of the other blue inks that have a kind of reddish sheen. And I've also used Sloth a lot, which is also blue with a kind of reddish sheen. And I enjoy Envy, which is a dark green with kind of like a blackish undercoat. I haven't used Wrath so much. I don't think I've ever used it properly. It's only recently I realized, oh, this is a shimmer ink. I thought it was just a regular red ink. You just learn by trial when you're learning more about inks and fountain pens. Most people don't come equipped, oh, I know all this stuff immediately. Sometimes you just have to figure out through stupid, embarrassing mistakes and realizing, oh, I wasn't doing that properly, or oh, wow, I'm such a stooge. And of course, because I love Dante so much, I have a whole playlist called All About Dante and the Divinecomedy, which I'm going to be finally starting to add a lot more regular content to this year. I love these inks because, the 7 Deadly Sins and Purgatorio is my favorite of the 3 canticles of the Divine Comedy. I'll be talking a little bit about that while I'm doing the swatching. Of course, not so much it overwhelms the purpose of the video, which is swatching the inks, but it's making me hungry to start doing some more blog posts, which I will then turn into videos about Purgatorio. Just so many things I love about this canticle, and so I can't say enough about how much I love Dante. And now I'll just open the window for better light so I can do the swatching. First up is Pride, which is the first of the 7 sins being punished on Purgatory, and Dante admits many times throughout the work, and not just the Divine Comedy, other works of his as well, he makes no bones about it. Pride is the sin he struggles with the most. And he's totally low-key, bragging on himself. Oh, to praise oneself excessively is morally reprehensible, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway. Oh, I'm such a genius, I know so much. But sometimes that's just a thing when people when we're really more intelligent than other people, we kind of sense that, and we don't always realize we're bragging about ourselves. We're just oh, we're intelligent. I don't realize other people could interpret this as saying I'm so much better than you. This is a purple ink. This is also an ink I did not initially realize was a shimmer ink, because I didn't realize I was supposed to be looking at the bottom of the bottle to tell for shimmer, and I don't remember if I had seen that in the description. I love writing with this ink, and I have used it, of course. Before I realized it had the shimmer as just a regular purple, and then afterwards, of course, I did start, shaking it up before I filled the pen. I really enjoy this. Is a nice, it's a little bit lighter shade of purple than I personally prefer, but who could go wrong with purple? It's just such an absolutely, beautiful, beautiful color. I'll shake it up again to put some more ink down on the swatch, and I love how they all have little skulls on the front cover, illustrating things. And because I'm going to save, of course, most of these details for my upcoming future video and blog post about Contrapasso and Inferno, where the sin you committed in your lifetime, your punishment in the afterlife, is going to remind you of it. The people being published on the terrace for the prideful, they're forced to carry heavy stones weighing them down. Because they were prideful in life. Now they're going to be brought down and humbled. And Dante says, oh, I know I'm going to be coming back here when it's my time. Maybe he's still there because he was such a prideful guy, but not without reason. This is such a pretty, beautiful purple. Of course, I've used it quite a number of times now, but I've never seen it laid down in all its extreme, beautiful purple glory. This is definitely one of my top 3 favorite inks of the entire set. Oh, now of course I have to shake it up yet again to do the writing sample. That's just one of the things you can't avoid about shimmer inks, as pretty as they are. You just have to keep like shaking them up if you're doing like calligraphy or a dip pen or like writing with artwork or for like a swatch card. And I'm just putting off the excess ink on this little canvas because I love like abstract art and I don't enjoy like, wasting things. It goes down a lovely, lovely shade of purple, as I said, not like the shade of purple as dark as I usually like, but of course I can't complain about any shade of purple. I guess it's leans more towards a medium-ish shade of purple, maybe on the lighter side of dark purple or the darker side of medium, but I love purple so much and the shimmer is really pretty with this ink. I do highly recommend it if you enjoy purple. I will probably be getting a full bottle of this at some point. They also come in 50 milliliter bottles. Next up is Envy, which is a standard ink. This is green. Envy is the sin which is punished on the second terrace of Purgatory. These people have their eyes sewn shut. Dante compares them to how falconers and hawkers would, unfortunately, this seems like cruel animal cruelty to me in the modern era. They would tie the bird's eyes shut with wire when they're in the training process, because they were so envious, like beholding things with their eyes, and that's what basically caused their envy to enter into their souls. Now they're unable to see anything at all, and this is it's a darker green and it has a lovely like sheening of black. I've really enjoyed writing with this ink. I don't know if I would like consider it more like a tealy green, but it's definitely a beautiful, beautiful dark shade of green if you guys enjoy that kind of green. Yeah, that's definitely coming out more of a tealy color than it looked when I was writing with the pen. Swatching does definitely tend to give a much different look at ink because you're like seeing it in a much like broader surface area instead of a smaller nib of a pen. Even a broad nib doesn't cover by necessity as much surface area as a paintbrush or a cotton swab does, and you can see the really really pretty because I'm using my largest paintbrush, a very like dark green peeping through. This is just such a lovely gorgeous color. I should definitely, it's making me want to use it in a paint, not a paintbrush, in a pen again because I haven't used it for a while. I just can't stop laying down this color. It's just so absolutely pretty. Yeah, it's going down that same lovely, lovely, dark, decadent shade of green it does when I've written with it in pens. I can't recommend this one like highly enough to use, guys, if you like green. And I love how it's like, drying off with that. It looks more of a tealy sheen on the swatch card now than when it's dried on notebook paper. Prior then it looked like more of a black sheen, but either way it does look black in the writing sample for the writing the name, but either way this is a really lovely lovely ink if you enjoy like dark green and greens with the sheen. Yeah, totally go for that. I could definitely see myself getting a full bottle of this when the 30 milliliter one comes out. I don't think they had the larger bottles available initially. They just had 3 bottles first, and then the other 4 sins came out. The first 3 were pride, wrath, and sloth, and then came greed, gluttony, lust, and envy. But this is a lovely, lovely ink. Total winner. Highly recommended. The third ink is wrath, which, surprise, surprise, is a sin being punished on the third terrace of Purgatory. The terrace of the wrathful occurs at the poem's exact midway point when a dramatic cloud of smoke, this is a shimmer ink I mentioned earlier, a giant cloud of smoke takes over the entire mountain. It took away our sight and the pure air, and Dante clings to Virgil for protection and comfort like a blind person, clinging onto his guide. And this is where they encounter Marco the Lombard, Marco de Lombardi, who delivers a treatise about free will and whether like events or like things, decisions we make, are they influenced by the stars or God, or do we make our own decisions? And he basically says it's all free will. In the line 75 in Canto 15 of Purgatorio is the exact midway point of the poem. People have, like scholars have calculated this, and the line is, light has been given you for right or wrong, and then a few lines later, so if the world today has gone astray, the cause lies in you it must be sought. So that's, a very, very powerful, meaningful line to me. Like, don't blame other people for your sins. That's a whole thing of purgatory. Many of the people in purgatory have committed the same sins as people in inferno, but the difference is they didn't, die unrepentant. They like admitted what they did. They like started to, say, like, I'm going to like work on myself. I'm going to do better, make atonement for my sins. And the people in inferno, they were just still blaming other people, or like saying, oh, I didn't do anything wrong, or I know maybe people would consider this bad, but I did it for the right reasons. I don't understand why anyone would think this was like a terrible, bad sin. So that's like something I didn't really necessarily understand the first time I was reading the poem. I'll have to shake this up again. I haven't used this a lot. Maybe that's why the shimmer isn't really like shaking properly and distributing. And I guess I wasn't really so much into red inks when I first like got this set. I like red inks more now, particularly the bright, like vibrant, like in your face ink. Some of my favorite reds also come from Diamine. Strawberry red and poppy red. Yeah, it's a really, really beautiful red, particularly. Oh, and this definitely, it says wrath all over. If you're into, really angry, bright, vibrant reds, I totally go for this. I probably would also get a full bottle of this when the 30 millimeter runs out. Or, sorry, milliliter. This ink has a more subtle shimmer, at least what I'm seeing in the sample card. And from well, I can't really speak from experience what it looked like when I wrote with it like in pens in the past, because I don't think I was like realizing it had shimmer at this point. So this is the very first time I'm actually, seeing the shimmer particles when writing with it. I probably should do some more like writing with it, like just to get a feel for it, because I wasn't, doing it properly before. But yeah, this is really lovely now that I can, finally see its full shimmer properties, and it's a lovely angry shade of red. Wrath is the deadly sin, which I personally struggle with the most. The next sin is sloth, and because the people being punished on the fourth terrace of purgatory were slothful in their contrapasso punishment, they're being forced to engage in, constant excessive activity, being reminded of the opposite of what they did. Yeah, this is just it's not a standard ink, it's a sheening ink. It's a dark blue. According to the Cult Pens website, the slower you go with this ink and the more you let it pool, the more dramatic the color effect becomes. Let's just see. Yeah, I just rinsed out my brushes because the water was becoming too, muddled. And of course, you do need to wash out brushes after a while. Sometimes they just don't rinse out enough on their own. Let's see. Hopefully, again, you saw the thing. Hopefully, there's not going to be too much like water coming out. Yeah, that looks, wow, that looks even like more pretty than when I've written with it before. Like, so much changes when you have a larger surface area, and it's not just coming out of the even like a broad nib of a pen. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite inks of this set. Even if I know, definitely you don't have to even like tell anyone who's familiar with fountain pens and inks these days, like blue inks with like red sheens and undertones are like kind of overdone. Like, you've seen one, you've seen them all, but this is a really, really lovely ink, like so-called professional looking. If you're worried about that and at school or work, definitely I would possibly, get a full bottle of this when the 30 milliliter runs out. And yeah, it goes down really nicely on the canvas too. Going down really lovely color. It looks almost black sometimes when I'm, writing with it, but then the magical, sheening effect happens. And of course, sometimes inks go down one color or at least a different shade or hue of that like specific color, and it totally dries up into something not necessarily completely different, but just like a completely, something you were not expecting at all. And so this is a really great ink. Probably, I would guess, one of their best sellers of this list, because, some people, they have to use like not even like any blue, just like shades of blue that look more serious and professional at work and in school. So I can definitely see where this would appeal to people who need something that's not necessarily like fun or like original or novelty, but they just need something that, looks like what the boss would, expect of them or want for them. And you can already see it's like drying up to this like lovely red sheen. Hopefully I'm not going to knock that bottle over. This, I know this is kind of like a tight space to work with. The fifth sin is greed, which is gold, like yellowish with a lovely goldy sheen. This again, this is not an ink I have like really used at all except for writing something, like a few lines of it with a dip pen a while ago, just because like gold, it's not a color like I don't think most people are interested in writing with, because it can like you struggle with legibility or just I guess maybe like the eyes, like psychological or like physical. With it, blue is the easiest color on the eyes, and like yellow, it's like bright, like eye popping in your face. Most people don't paint their walls of their houses or their rooms like yellow either, because it can just like wow, like give my poor eyes a break. I want something that's a little bit calming. But so anyway, on I'm totally blanking on the terrace of the people being punished for greed, also called avarice. It's not necessarily only like greed. They were just like excessively like desired, power or decadence or extravagance. And this is where they meet the Roman poet Statius, who is the greatest Latin poet of the Rome's Silver Age and Dante's second favorite writer. And as you might know in real life, Statius, like, why would he be in Purgatorio? Is like, Virgil, like, basically it says it all but directly, like, you were almost my contemporary, dude. How could you be here when like Christianity didn't exist? In Dante's like imagined vision, Statius secretly converted to Christianity, but like kept it a secret. So he's not really being punished for any kind of greed or avarice at all. He's being punished for being prodigal, like not publicly owning his religious conversion and keeping it a secret. So we're going to see how this like writes out in a swatch, because I've only ever seen what it looks like in the little dip pen. Hopefully the tip isn't like too watery for it to come across well. And that's looking more, I'm definitely seeing the shimmer coming through. That's looking more kind of like a mustardy color, I guess. But I'm not familiar at all with, gold inks or like yellow, because like what's the point when you can really like, basically like barely read it a lot of times. But of course in the heaviest part of the shimmer, I'm seeing some like really lovely like gold tones. This is really pretty. Maybe if I had a much broader nib to write with, I would want to write with it more. But again, this is like a statement ink, not the kind of ink at least not most people anyway, are going to be like writing with on any kind of regular basis. But it's definitely very pretty, and it of course evokes like gold, like money, greed. Definitely perfectly fits for the sin being represented. I do like it, but I do think this would probably, for me at least, be more of an ink I use for like art and painting instead of any kind of like regular writing. Yeah, that's going down very similar to what it looked like when I did the writing sample with the dip pen. It doesn't look yellow so much, of course, gold, but it's kind of like a color like beyond that, and like not really that. It has, the elements of the yellow and the gold, but I don't know if I don't even know if like green undertone is the right word. It's just like hard to describe this color. It's really, really like beautiful and distinctive, but just not the kind of color I could realistically see myself wanting to write with on any kind of regular basis. But if you do like, yellow and gold inks and you have the right kind of paper to do it, or you like using it for art, go for it. This is definitely a very unique ink in my collection, and probably in most people's. I had to go rinse out my brushes and get fresh water again. This is Gluttony, the sixth and penultimate of the deadly sins, punished on the sixth terrace of Purgatory. This is where Dante meets his buddy Forese Donati, who is one of his best friends in real life. They exchange some very funny poems. I have a prior video about that called A Medieval Style Rap Battle and a Stone Woman. These are just like really like funny poems. Many people wouldn't associate Dante with that kind of writing at all. It really is like a medieval style rap battle. They're trading insults about one another. He shows himself as like a fun young man who just, was not like a total like serious minded like intellectual. He liked having fun, like going to the pub with his like buddies. He didn't take life like 100% seriously, and this is a lovely, it's, I wouldn't call this like gold so much, it's kind of more of an orangey ink, and it has a lovely shimmer to it. Hopefully I'm going fast enough to get the shimmer particles up on the brush. And I know this is a terrible like working area, but I'm doing the best I can with my, limited stuff. Yeah, it's definitely going down really pretty orangey color, like looks like the sunset, almost looks like a bronze color. This is just a really pretty ink. I've enjoyed writing with it very much. I probably should do some more writing with it, but because I guess of the nature of, orange inks, looks better when showcased in a pen with a larger nib, and particularly because of the shimmer, just that comes through like so much better when, there's just more surface area and it's not like concentrated in a tiny nib. But shimmer inks in general, they do look better in nibs that are at least medium and up, because like why bother with a shimmer ink when you can't really like appreciate it to its like full like beautiful extent in a smaller like nib. Yeah, that's going down a really lovely shade. I would consider this, again, it's like Greed. Of course, it's the main color is kind of an orangey, but it's like beyond description of the usual type of orange. I would describe it as a little like, bronzy undertones and maybe even a little bit of rose gold, but it just basically like defies description in comparison with the types of inks I'm familiar with. I might get a full bottle of this when I run out of the smaller size, but I would have to do some more like writing with it to be sure. But like so far, I really enjoy what I have like seen of this ink and have written with it. It's kind of hard to like squeeze it into these little swatch cards at the bottom. There it goes. Diamine, make that eye a little bit higher so it's standing out. Looks great. And last but not least comes lust, the seventh and final sin being punished on the Mount of Purgatory. This is a very interesting thing because of the, I guess, the translation I read the first time, and basically was like constantly mentally translating it out of that like stupid, annoying, like faux Elizabethan, like faux archaism so many people use. Oh, this work was written before, like, 1800. We must pretend these authors were writing like Shakespeare with like equivalent grammar and pronouns that never really existed in any other languages like we imagine they did, just because our only frame of reference is English. But so anyway, I totally like, slipped my mind, not slipped my mind, just like passed over me. I didn't get it at all from the translation I read, that equal numbers of gay and straight men are being like punished, purified on this terrace of purgatory. I have a whole separate video called Gay Men in the Divine Comedy. Like Dante's views on like homosexuality, they're like light years ahead of what you would expect of the average person from the Middle Ages, particularly when you realize everyone in purgatory is guaranteed eventual admission to paradise. So Dante, like, despite like men believed to be gay, or at least believed because of their like placement in a certain part of hell, like he didn't believe you automatically go to hell for that. It's just that people in purgatory and inferno, many times they've like committed the same sins. I'm sorry, I have ink on my hand. Like, what's else is new? They've committed the same sins, but the difference is like between hell and purgatory. Again, like where did you channel the sin? Maybe you just like this was like something that was wrong to do, but in certain other circumstances, maybe it would be okay. You just didn't like do it like correctly. You loved excessively, for example, or you like just channeled your desire for worldly goods in a way you shouldn't have. So that's like something a lot of people don't understand when they like DNF the book after Inferno and they don't read the whole book, or they don't like study it properly. That one of the reasons it's one of my absolute like favorite books. It's been like over 20 years now since I've loved Dante. I can't wait to get back to doing some more videos, and this is going to be, I have to push that out of the way so I can get this closer to the camera. Lust. I love this ink. It just like, makes me happy to write with it. It's like so vibrantly, eye-poppingly blue. I've had this in sometimes even several different pens at the same time with like different nib sizes. I'm definitely going to be getting a full bottle of this after the 30 mil runs out. It's just, I can't say enough good things about this ink, and the sheening is pretty, and it's just such a unique, different shade of blue. It's like completely different from Sloth, and it's just so absolutely gorgeous. Can't recommend it more highly. I love this ink. As you can see, all this like beautiful shade of blue. It's like very unique, and it also kind of reminds me of the seashore. Just like so many lovely things, reasons I love this ink. Yeah, this is a really, really lovely shade of blue. It does look a bit darker coming out of the dip pen, but again, that's a given sometimes. Inks that look they look different in swatches, extra fine, broad, medium. It just depends like how much ink is concentrated in that particular size. So sometimes it can be, a pleasant surprise or like an unhappy. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing the wrong thing. I'm starting to write cult pens. I should have been writing Diamine. Hopefully I can correct from that stupid dumbass mistake. Thankfully that wasn't too bad to correct. Yeah, because I've been writing cult pens exclusive at the top. My brain just got the signals confused. Yeah, that definitely looks like a good correction. I saved that one in time, and I'll just, write the cult pens exclusive at the top, and I come back with a wrap up. So there are all of the 7 deadly sins inks from Diamine Cult Pens exclusive in the UK. Thanks for watching all the way through. Let me know down in the comments. Do you guys have any of these inks? Do you have the whole set? Did you get the 30 milliliter size or the 50 milliliter size? Are there any, if you got the smaller size or a sample, you would be interested in getting a full or a larger bottle of when that one runs out? Which one is your favorite? Are there any that like just aren't your style? Some that like might maybe be interested, but you would have to like get a sample or something, or like write with it or swatch it yourself? And do you think the gold, the greed one would be better suited for like, artwork and stuff than like regular writing? Or could it be like could it work well in the right kind of pen and on the right kind of paper? These inks are just so absolutely gorgeous. I love writing with like so many of them, the lust and the sloth and the pride and the envy and the gluttony, and I should do some more with the wrath, particularly now that I'm seeing the really, really pretty shimmer coming through. Unfortunately, I just didn't realize it was a shimmer ink prior, so I was only writing with it as a regular red ink. But like all of these inks are winners in my book, particularly the really, really like unique ones like gluttony and greed. Even though I said it would probably be more of an art ink for me, but I just really love the uniqueness and the creativity of the color. So thanks for watching very much all the way through to the end, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.